Hello and welcome to our Genius Biofeedback training for a Monday. Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of our Genius Biofeedback community. Thank you for being here, giving us your presence. This is an opportunity for you to ask your questions, anything about the genius that you want to know about. And it's an opportunity for us to do some demonstrations of how the genius works. So a warm welcome to everyone. And a couple of things we have in the works here. We really want to invite nurses, acupuncturists, chiropractors. We're going to work on a free event for this. If you know people who are thinking about changing their career, we want to show them at least how to have a side income with the genius. So that's a project that we're working on. So think about that for people who you know who may want to work more remotely or may be concerned about a certain procedure. You know, we want to let them know, and we want to showcase a lot of our practitioners who are making a good income doing genius sessions. One of the things that makes the genius so convenient and doable is the fact that you can work with our Quanta Capsule system. And we've had many, many people make incredible breakthroughs with the Quanta Capsule system. So we want to do a free webinar about that. I will have the date for you, but this, as an affiliate, this would be a great opportunity for you to invite people who are, maybe they decided to leave their job. And while the genius won't make them the same salary from day one, it can be a great start for side income. It isn't very long before people find that they have 1, 2, or 3, or 4 subscribers paying them $100 a month or more. And that can really, really add up over time. So we definitely want to invite more people to our community. Hi, Nanette. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Dale. Thank you so much. Elaine, it's always a pleasure. I love it, Elaine. You've been joining us for so many of these classes. It's absolutely wonderful to have your presence with us as you continue to learn. So a couple of things that I wanted to tell you about. If you have a Mac, now we know it works on the Mac laptops. If you have a Mac laptop that is an M1 chip, so it would be something that you got in the last year or so. So all of them tell you now they have this wonderful Apple produced M1 chip. It's really amazing. It's fast, it's powerful. If you have that, I have one of those MacBook Airs, a newer one that I got sometime earlier this year. And it does in fact have an M1 chip. So if you find that you have that, you can, and this is so cool, you can load the Genius onto that particular device, onto your MacBook Air, your MacBook Pro. I'm trying to find out if it works on a Mac, an actual computer, a Mac computer with an M1 chip. I haven't tried it yet. The way to download that is just the same download. If you go to geniusbiofeedback.com, there's a menu on here for the Genius links. And if you open that up, you can see that this Apple Genius link, might even be able to do it now and just see if it actually loads for fun. So this is how I loaded it onto my iPad, and you just simply download the same link. I thought it might be a different link. It's the same link, and it's going to take some time. It downloads, you open it, and it will load definitely onto your laptop. So again, MacBook, what do you call them? A laptop, right? Either a Pro or an Air with an M1 chip. If you happen to get that laptop in 2019, it probably does not have an M1 chip. It has an Intel chip. If you're an Android person and you like to use Android, you can look for a Lenovo Chromebook. So it's usually the mid-range Lenovo's and I believe the Samsung Chromebooks. You have to try it because it varies from Chromebook to Chromebook whether it will be able to load our version of the Android Genius. But many people have told me, and one of my assistants does some of the work for us here on a Lenovo Chromebook, and it works fantastic. So we've said for many, many years that it just does not work on a laptop at all, and now that's changing. So it's wonderful for people that you refer to the Genius, and it's wonderful for just for the Genius. So let's see if we have some fun here. If we just open this up and we can answer some of your questions. If you have questions, we're going to move that. And then it actually did load it. So this is live and in person. It loaded the Genius onto what I'm using is actually a MacBook Mini with a monitor. And so the new MacBook Mini has an M1 chip, but this would probably apply to an iMac. And if I go ahead and I do this, it gives me some, I have to change my privacy. So I won't spend too long, but let's see if I can do it really quickly. Okay, so you'd have to go to, if I can't figure out quickly, I won't bore you, but it is really exciting to be able to use this on an actual computer. So it's really, really cool. But this would be in the privacy section. So internet accounts, scanners, startup disk, displays, desktop. It's so funny how it's just like, it's the hardest thing to find. Let's just see if there's one for privacy. Privacy settings. Probably looking right at it. Okay, and so it should give you the opportunity to go to the app. All right, I won't do it now, but you get the idea. So you just have to change your privacy settings, and then it will allow you to, you have to put in your password and so forth. Let's see if I can, I won't show the password, so let's just see if I can do that. All right, let's get some of your questions, and then we're going to proceed to Entangled Insights. So we're going to talk about Entangled Insights today. So if you have questions about Entangled Insights, this will be a great opportunity for you to ask that. I don't know what happened, if it changed at all. But anyway, so I don't think it's still going to let me open it. So you get the idea. You just have to change your privacy settings, and then the Genius will actually show on the device. And maybe we can set that up for next week. In the meantime, we just have the reflector here. So we'll take a volunteer to talk about Entangled Insights, and we will get rolling from there. So really exciting news, I think, about the Genius and just a new way to utilize it. So let's take any of your questions that you have. We're also going to talk about last session, Suzette had a question about assessments and solutions that did not get answered. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Entangled Insights, and then we're going to talk about assessment versus solution, because they're very similar, and why I actually prefer working with assessment and solution over the Entangled Insights. Okay, so I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Let's see. Okay, we'll get to all of these. So yeah, it works on a MacBook Air. And Lauren has a question about her dog. So let's see. Lauren says, my little dog has a serious heart problem. In his Genius session, what is the preferred strategy? I worked on all the reds and blues and focus on heart issues. So Lauren, if you want to be a surrogate for your dog, we'll just, you know, shoot me the dog's approximate date of birth, the dog's name, or you can even tell me. We could actually do that together on screen, since that's not too much of a secret. So if you're willing to join us just by audio and talk about your dog, we can walk through some of the steps while we actually incorporate the Entangled Insights discussion. So let me know if you'd like to do that. When I run Entangled Insights, too many items come up at 100%. Do you pick all of them? We'll talk about that. That's a very good question, Sophie. What does it mean when you get a blue for coffee and we don't drink it or even have it near? So usually if you get a blue for coffee and you're testing for food sensitivities, it means it's not really a beneficial drink for you. And interestingly enough, some people have genetic changes to their liver that make their liver enzymes very poor at processing coffee, while other people, they drink a cup of coffee and they're not affected by it at all. They could just go right to sleep. And that is because of genetic changes called single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs. These are the types of things that were checked on something like 23andMe, where people found out about that there weren't good methylators. They can also find out that they're not good at detoxifying coffee. So you might be one of those folks not very good at detoxifying coffee. And so as such, it comes up as blue because it's not really a great a food for you and not a great drink for you. So that's a very good question. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're actually just gonna, let's talk with Lauren while we get this set up and see how she's doing. Talk about dogs and pets, and we are gonna have actually another free animal class coming up soon. So I look forward to sharing that with you. Let's see if we can find her here in the class, and we'll answer more of your questions. All right, so I hope I can do this. Yes, okay. Hi, Lauren, can you also unmute yourself? If you're able to unmute yourself, let me know. And
yep, I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted. Okay, fantastic. Okay, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. Okay, well, tell us a little bit about your dog.
Yeah, Oliver, he's 12 years old. He has congestive heart failure.
Okay.
So one of the symptoms is that the heart enlarges, he gets fluid on the lungs, and so he coughs. And so he's coughing quite badly. So I've been putting him on the Genius, and it's extremely noticeable that he coughs a lot less after he's had a session, and he seems a lot more calm and a lot more less distressed than normal. So it's doing marvelous. But I just wanted to know the protocol, or you don't like the word protocol, the way for being able to work on him to get the optimum healing for him.
Well, we call it a process. So as a process, it can absolutely work fantastic. What are some of the things that you've been working on so far?
So what I've been working is going through doing his on the Progressive Insights. I do everything to do with all the reds and the blues. But I also have the extra library. So I have Canine healing in the library. So I've been adding those in as well.
That's very, very good. We've had many people who have had great, great results working with dogs, which is so exciting to hear that that's something that you've worked with. Now, do you have the imprinter, the remedy plate?
Yes.
Because the remedy plate, have you thought about imprinting the frequencies into your dog's water?
No, I have not.
So that could be something to really solidify the frequencies. And yeah, so think about doing that. Now, how do you usually is the dog in the room when you're playing the frequencies?
Yes. He always lies right beside me, so he's probably about 2 feet away from my iPad.
Fantastic. That's absolutely amazing. Well, I definitely want to, so tell us a little bit about the particular thing that you were curious about, that you want us, the condition, everything that you want us to work on today.
So his cough and his heart and his lungs.
Okay. And how old is the dog?
12 years.
Okay. So you've for 12 years. And what kind of diet do you feed your dog?
He's mostly offal for livers, hearts, and kidneys and liver, and raw food biscuits.
Okay. Very cool. So it sounds like you're well versed in working with natural health with dogs.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Now, have you ever worked as done any work or done a session being a surrogate?
No.
All right, so the way to act as a surrogate is you can actually speak the words and the voice for your dog. So do you want to try that?
Absolutely.
Let's see if we can get this up here. Okay, so let's get this figured out here. All right, so we're going to enter. I'm going to ask you to tell me your dog's information again. I know you sent it in the chat here, but since we can show it on the screen, it's not as personal as when we do humans. So we're going to talk about that in just one second. Let me just get all of this cleaned up here so we can do this. All right. So, by the way, I just downloaded, we have a new system here. So I downloaded the reflector. The reflector is now reflector 4 for those of you who are interested. Now, when you have a computer, you may not ever have to do that. If you have a Mac or you have a Lenovo, you could actually just show it on your screen, which is really cool. Otherwise, you can use your reflector to reflect your iPad. So tell us the name of your dog.
Oliver.
Okay. And should we use your last name?
Sure, Slade, S-L-A-D-E.
Okay, and the approximate, do you know the exact date of birth? Because you can just completely approximate.
14th of September, 2009.
And is that one that you know for sure?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. And it's a male dog?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so let's skip right to this part here. So to be a surrogate, what you're going to do is sort of focus on your dog. Oh, phone's ringing. Okay, so focus on your dog, really.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, is it? Okay. So focus on your dog. So use your intention. And then what we're going to do is you're going to say, it is my intention to be the carrier frequency for my dog, and then your dog's name. And then just keep saying A-E-I-O-U. Okay. It is my intention. You want to think that as you're saying it as well. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. I'm recording.
It is my intention to be a surrogate for my dog, Oliver. A surrogate of frequencies for my dog, Oliver. A-E-I-O-U. A-E-I-O-U. A-E-I-O-U.
Perfect. Okay, Lauren, we're going to integrate some of the information about Entangled Insights, but it's specifically working on, let this play out. It's specifically working on heart and lungs is what you're concerned about, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll get started rolling from there. So fantastic.
His before and after auras really show dramatic transformation when working with the genius. So I'm very happy when I look at those.
What kind of changes were you seeing?
It was very muddy and cloudy and not very nice looking colors at all. There were some yellows in there. And then afterwards, he was all purple and blue.
Fantastic. Okay, Lauren, thank you. We'll come back and talk with you in just a little bit, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, really cool. Okay, we hear that a lot about working with animals. People have very good experiences working with dogs, cats, and dogs and cats don't have the mental resistance that a lot of human beings do, and they respond extremely well, just like they do to homeopathy. So let's look at the aura of the dog. So it's really powerful to be a surrogate. They use this a lot in kinesiology. They use it in different types of muscle testing. You can be a surrogate for anyone that's not available, but you just focus. A lot of it is your intention that you're focusing. And oftentimes your energy field is very mixed in with your companion animal anyway. So the aura is looking very good. There are a few densities in there. Let's see if we can get the arrow to work here. So yeah, just a few densities here, but it's looking beautiful. Remember, we're pulling things in on our left side, which the person or the dog is always facing you. So this is their left side, this is the right side. So pulling in a lot of energy. I bet she's been running a lot of wonderful energy for her dog. And it's so cool to be able to see the before and after of any session that you're doing. And soon we're going to be integrating a new type of technology that's we're going to be able to look at some before and after using a different type of resonance software. We're going to see the changes that were made by the genius, and hopefully Rick Willia will join us with that, and he's also going to be teaching us some heart coherence. So we'll look forward to that. But there are amazing changes that happen in your environment and in you that can actually be shown by other technology, even besides the genius, to see the before and after. So we're going to continue to explore some of that. There's this is such early days for the Genius, and there's so much that we can do to share the information of how it's working and changing lives. So we're going to go back here and let's just look up and down a little bit. Sensitivities is something that I see so often when I work on animals, that there's often some type of food that they're not quite resonating with, and a little bit of enzymes, a little bit of probiotics goes a long, long way for dogs. And sensitivities, remember that the dogs that are walking outside are getting a lot of herbicide exposure, a lot of pesticide exposure, and so that's affecting them as well. Let's see here which sensitivities are coming up. So sensitivity to wheat, so if there's any gluten in any of the biscuits or treats that are given, maybe not, maybe the dog's just, this can come up if the dog is just sensitive to gluten, it can come up. And then we're seeing latex. I mean, that could just be a general sensitivity. There's sort of a latex-like substance in bananas, saying the dog's allergic to peanuts, eggs, and grass. And so there could be something in the grass, but these are common foods that could be in dog snacks or being actually fed to dogs. So they're not too off the beaten path there. Then we've got animal fat. Now this is more not the dog's fat. This is more just like a steak or some type of animal fat like that. The dog itself, and so this could be dog dander. That's more likely what it is, and hilariously allergic to cats, but also cat dander. So we don't need to understand each and every item that comes up in the Genius, just know to run the reds and the blues, but these are some of the things that could be coming up. And pollen is another one that the dog could just be out in the environment. So all of these sensitivities could be playing in the background and affecting the dog in some way. So we don't know why the heart and lungs, I assume this has already been ruled out, but it's interesting how many dogs don't get tested for heartworm. And so that could legitimately be in the background. Now, not for this dog, but sometimes if you don't get your dog tested, your dog could be carrying or have heartworm and it could be completely missed, especially if the dog was moved from one part of the country to the other where heartworm is not very prevalent. Then a lot of veterinarians don't test for heartworm, interestingly enough. So let's look at some of the other things that are coming up. Now we can include the singular frequency down in the main hold tray for each one of these. We see essential oils. Be careful with animals and essential oils. There are some cautions and things you need to be aware of when using those. I personally don't use them for dogs. Then we have glands. We have the pituitary gland, the testes, the pancreas, so something in the reproductive system, the pancreas itself. So pancreas is so prevalent. I mean, any dog that's ever had kibble, it's not the best ever, even if you feed your dog natural kibble. Now, I think she's feeding the dog a lot of natural, really good things, maybe some raw food, but kibble is very hard on the enzymatic system. So some enzymes, some probiotics, maybe even some fermented foods. The pituitary, not directly related to the cardiovascular system, but something good to balance. Then we've got the spinal energy. Now it's fascinating, the dogs have the spine just like humans, and there's so many similarities with the spinal nerves coming out the sides. And of course, there's lots of hip dysplasia in certain dogs, and their spine certainly can be out of alignment. There are natural veterinarians that do chiropractic alignments for dogs, which is so cool. And they're just very, very subtle manipulations that can make a very big difference. So why not be able to go ahead and do this energetic chiropractic adjustment on your dog? So we can move this here. And let's go ahead and include some of these that are under 200. So this is going to really revitalize and regenerate the nervous system. Anytime you're working with spinal energy, it's going to work on the total nervous system. It's going to, when you have different spinal vertebrae that are compressing, as you can see here, when the muscles surrounding it are compressing, when you have some type of, maybe you didn't sleep right, and the muscles are pulling or pushing the vertebra out of alignment, you can just feel like something is off. You don't feel right. You don't feel good. And it's because this nerve is constantly being compressed and irritated. And so you want some relief from that. It could be massage. It could be an adjustment. It could be doing yoga. And of course, you could run a Genius session in order to open up the energy of these spinal segments where the spinal nerve is very likely compressed. There's not a lot of energy flowing through. A lot of this happens because we sit so much because we're in constant flexion. So anytime you can stand, stretch, do yoga, get into more of an extension posture is very, very helpful. It says brain EEG, so something going on with the brain. Emotions. Let's see if, I won't open up the emotions for the moment, but if you look at the emotions, you'll see often the personality of the dog. You might see jealousy or boredom, different things like that that are so related to the dog's sort of world that are very, very accurate for the dog. Got some sacred geometry. We could go ahead and include this, the Archimedean solids. These are just potentiators of things that exist within you. It's not that important to identify the exact sacred geometry. And the brain EEG, interesting that the brain waves are off in some way, and you wonder if also animals aren't affected by the electromagnetic frequencies. Let's go ahead and look at today's stress. That's always an important one to look at. And it tells us a fungus. So a fungus is most likely occurring in the gut. Very, very common for animals, okay? This is where there might be not perfect digestion, and the fungus is like the compost that comes in. So anybody who thinks that they have candida or a fungus, this is like when you don't have good metabolism, it usually starts with not having good stomach acid, not digesting completely, and so you may have sort of leftover waste, and the fungus kind of feeds or grows out of that sort of it's the self-composting mechanism. Tells us pathogens, hormones. So pathogens, very common for animals to have parasites, bacteria, viruses that they're carrying within them. And in a large way, to a large extent, they can navigate the world with those particular pathogens, although it's good to clear them and to do a parasite cleanse, a deworming on your dog. Emotional comes up again. So animals live on the emotional plane. They also, so a lot of their world, is about these balancing emotions. Therefore, using flower essences, emotional balancing can be profound for a dog in terms of really being able to heal the physical by working with the emotional. So that's very important. So even just doing a full-on flower essence session, just the flower essences, just the emotions would be very helpful for dogs. So now let's go ahead and look at Entangled Insights. And we often, so the dog has heart and lung issues going on. I don't know that we're going to get that much from the Entangled Insights. We're going to use the libraries for this. We do see cardiovascular at 185. So let's talk about a couple of different ways that we can work with the genius. We could tap on cardiovascular. When we tap it once, it takes us to a new screen called Entangled Insights. Entangled Insights is not the same as Progressive Insights. Entangled Insights, the purpose is to compare one item to another, or to go through a whole bunch of items and see if there's anything that makes sense that could be connected. So let's try it. The first option that we have is to load all the insights. So we're going to go ahead and check everything and see, is there anything that is related to cardiovascular? Let's see. The way that we would know that is if it's related to the cardiovascular system at 100%. So it tells us that there's a Bacillus coli virus. There's this probably needs the need for bifidus. There may have been some constipation. It tells us about some homeopathic remedies that could be beneficial. Influenza, something in the larynx, okay? Otitis externa, that's kind of common for dogs to maybe have something going on with the external ears. They may need to be cleaned out. Some type of parasite. So what you're doing is you're looking for logical matches here. There may be some things that make absolutely no sense. So we want to look for the logical matches. So we can also include all of these by bringing them down into the main hold tray, because the progressive insights can help us to sift and sort through these to find the significant energies. So a lot of these do make sense that they could be They could be very reasonable for a dog. Let's go down all the way to the bottom, and then let's see if there's anything at the bottom. So this is when we load all of them. We're going to do it a couple of different ways. So it tells us there's a young living oil. Then we do get a lot of parasites. So the thing to remember is it may not be that particular parasite or that particular virus, but it may tell us that there are parasites. So if you use a natural parasite remover that's good for dogs, that you know is safe for dogs, you could do that. Now, intermittent claudication is a problem with flow through the vessels. So that is a match. Intermittent claudication would be a very severe impairment of perfusion or circulation in the body. So that energy that is contained within intermittent claudication could be sort of the very thing that we need. We don't ever have to worry if we use a frequency that is not an exact match, because it's very likely there's something about the frequency, the nature of the frequency, that is a match for that person or that animal. And by running the frequency, you're creating a perfect simillimum for that person. And as such, it does have benefit, even though in our logical mind, we're like, well, but that might not be the right, that might not be the exact one, that might not be the exact virus. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of resonance. You're allowing the person's innate intelligence to make the decision. It gives us a homeopathic, some cramps. There could be some cramping, chronic fatigue syndrome. The dog could be fatigued because of the heart and lung issue. So we've got some wonderful things now in that main whole tray. If we just stopped here, we could go to the tray, and sorry about this, we do actually have a license, but we just didn't have time to enter this, so just ignore that. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to prioritize these now. So what is the priority of all of those items? Let's see if there's something that comes up at the very top of all of those items. So it does say that diet. What I take from this is that it's not just about wheat. It's not just about the sensitivities. It's about the overall diet of the dog, that there's something that could be improved. Not that it's bad, but something could be improved. We'll look at that in detail when we get to the canine libraries. It tells us that bifidus, a probiotic bifidus, which reduces inflammation in the gut, could be very beneficial for the dog. I don't know that there's too many other things. The L1 could definitely be the L1 vertebra. Grass, the parasites, I would definitely run the parasites. So I'd run all of these on high for a minute, just for global overall balancing. Now let's go back to the Entangled Insights and do a couple of different things. The next thing that you could do is you use one of the all. So these all have little categories to them. So you can look within the categories themselves. For example, let's see if there's an emotion connected to the cardiovascular issue. So we'll run emotions all. It loads all the emotions into the Entangled Insights, and now we tap on the check button at the bottom. Don't worry too much about the total score at the bottom. It's better if it's 50% or more, but you're really looking at the overall percentages that are listed up here. So let's look at those. So something about despair, see if there's one at the bottom. Jealousy, I don't know if there's another animal, companion animal, or jealous of a spouse or something like that. Let's actually just clear these out. So despair, being in awe, disappointment, euphoria. I would pick up all of those that are in the 90% and above. Now, not all of them are going to make sense, but another thing that happens is that animals are constantly picking up the emotions of the people around them, and particularly the one that they're connected to the most. So they could be picking up those emotions, right? And then jealousy, remorse, fear. Fear is more likely. Dogs are not going to have this very complex contemplation about their emotions, but some of the basic emotions like jealous of another dog or a cat, that absolutely does happen. And fear is an obvious one. And it could have even in despair, just despair because not feeling as well as they want to feel. Let's go back again, and we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep going back here to cardiovascular. And we can load all the insights, then we could come up with Bach flower essences, bacteria, aspects of cancer. We did emotions, fungus, headaches, a homeopathic, influenza, Lyme, parasites, virus, young living oils. So if you wanted to look into any of those categories, you can go right to those categories. I don't know if there's anyone here that's going to make that much sense, or I keep tapping on it, it keeps disappearing. So the emotion one is the one that makes the most sense. Unless you wanted to look for some Bach flower essences for the dog, then you could do it this way. You could also do it within the panel itself. So that would make sense. But this is how you use Entangled Insights. There are a few individual frequencies that you can use. And we did do a video that's on the YouTube channel. If you go to Ariel Policano on YouTube and you look for Entangled Insights, we did an extended video with a handout. I will put that link for that handout in the newsletter this week, and it has a lot of secrets to using the Entangled Insights function that I think you'll find to be really, really helpful. So there's not huge match here. It's only 96%. So my tendency would go to the lowest one, which would be like crabapple. And crabapple is for detoxification, purification. So again, maybe doing a fall cleanse for the dog in some way, which you can do. You can give more rice and some broth and some different types of foods and enzymes and do a detox, a doggy detox. So that's the way that you use some of the aspects in Entangled Insights. There are a few individual ones that you can use. And we use this more for, now is this working here? See, this is really, need to tell the developer about it. The search in here, you should be able to search for everything. And the search function, I'll report it today, is just, you should be able to look for Epstein-Barr here, and that search is not working. And instead, you can't search alphabetically. There's no search box here, which means you need to scroll to the exact one that you want. So if you wanted to see if the cardiovascular system and constipation had a connection, you could check this. And when you check one item, then that percentage at the bottom is more significant. So if we checked here, is cardiovascular and constipation somehow connected? And they can be connected. So it gives us a number, and I can't see it on your screen, right? Yeah, on mine it's 64%. So in that case, we would want to include it, right? There's lots of, it's not an exact connection, but it's telling us maybe the microbiome is not very good, and that is somehow related. Maybe there's a virus, maybe there's the lack of hydration, a virus living in the colon. Maybe there's some relationship there to the heart and lung issue. It's not so far-fetched because the lung meridian and the large intestine meridian are connected. They're paired. So these are ways, and there's a couple of other ways. There's also something in here called healing and regeneration. So healing and regeneration it's just a frequency that's in here. Let's see if we can find it. Healing and regeneration. So this is a unique frequency that you could utilize in your sessions. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it. This is why we need the search function to be restored. Let's see, you've got hangover, hay fever, headaches. There it is, healing and regeneration. So that is a particular homeopathic frequency that's been programmed in there. It's a very powerful frequency, healing and regeneration. So you could actually see if that's a match for that person for the cardiovascular issue, and then you could include it. So let's go ahead and let's include it. So 63%, and we'll include it down here. So that would be a beneficial frequency for the dog. So let's see some of the questions that you may have here and talk about some of your questions. Then we'll go to some canine testing. In fact, let's go ahead and do the libraries. Oh my goodness, are the libraries in here? Hopefully. Yeah, thank goodness. Okay, so let's go ahead and test the libraries. Oops. All right, so let's see what some of your questions are. All right. Okay, when snail mailing a frequency infused silicone wristband, we have some of those here. So what a lot of our practitioners are doing is they're taking the silicone wristbands. You can go to rapidwristbands.com and get your own branding on these. So put your business name somewhere on this, put an affirmation. We always do an affirmation in the embossed: abundance and vitality. And then we have another one which says every cell in my body is happy and well. And so what you do is you place these on the remedy plate and you can imprint anything. It's actually, it really amazed me how powerful these bands are to people and how much they make a difference. So you would charge this, maybe you'd imprint it for about 30 minutes, 15 minutes or so, and you could put a bunch on the plate. And people have been using the V-Shed and the V-Clear, and the V-Shed especially, we've had practitioners who put V-Shed and then some vitamins, minerals, amino acids, things like that. And it's been, people are saying like they have more energy, they sleep better, they feel better, they don't have as much pain. So it's been really fantastic. So the question from Kathy was, when snail mailing a frequency infused silicone wristband, do you enclose anything energetically protective? And the one thing that you could do is you could wrap it in tin foil, with the foil being on the inside, and that will protect it from any frequencies as it's being scanned through the postal system. So that would be one thing that you could do. It seems kind of weird to get this in tin foil, but that would be a way that you could do it where it wouldn't necessarily, it would be protected from other frequencies it's being exposed to. Okay, is gluten sensitivity in the library? There's definitely, yeah, there's gluten in the food allergy. Look in the custom libraries that you have under food allergies, and we have several for testing gluten for sure. If you test your dog, how do you record his voice? Is the breath enough to get information? Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. So you could just have the dog breathing as you turn on the recording. So that's something that you could do. You could also do it as surrogate, or you could just use the dog's picture. Some people have trained the dog to speak, you know, they say speak and the dog barks. So that could be another way that you do it. What would be a good parasite cleanse for an adult that has pathogens for a person? So we did a whole parasite library. If you ever got the parasite library sort of collection, if you just go on and look for parasites, there's 3 libraries and we have a whole bunch of herbs in there. The typical ones that are good for parasites are the ones that are pretty well known, which is black walnut and wormwood. Those are 2 good anti-parasitics. So there's lots of other ones that you can utilize, and you know, it's good to do that twice a year to sort of deworm yourself, right? I know you need to be cautious with essential oils and pets, but does the same apply to the frequencies of essential oils? That's a really good question. I really don't think you're going to have any problem running a frequency of an essential oil for a dog. And remember that the genius works in partnership with your own innate intelligence and dog's innate intelligence, so they can take what they like and leave the rest. I don't really think you're going to get any reaction at all in that way. Mardell says there's an element of latex in avocados and sweet potatoes. Yeah, I've not heard that, so that could be possible. I bought an iPad Pro, but I prefer to change it for a computer. Absolutely. I wouldn't say that it works 100% perfectly yet on a computer, but I haven't really found any glitches thus far. So I maybe want to test that out on your computer before you make the final decision. But you could have 2 accesses and log in on both. Can you please show the screen in the Apple computer and how it looks like? Well, I wasn't able to change my privacy settings, but it looks pretty much like you see it here, Marcella. It's going to look exactly the same. I've used it on my MacBook Air, and it's just going to look exactly like you see it here. It's going to show the Genius in the middle of the screen, and then everything works from your keyboard. That is something that's really nice, is that you can have your keyboard in front of you and it will work right on your computer. Okay, you seem to be breaking up when talking. Let me know if that's the case. I have a new microphone here, so if it is breaking up, then let me know if it has been breaking up, because we have a new sort of standing microphone here. Can we also imprint a dog collar with the frequencies? Absolutely, that's a great idea. So you could get a particular, maybe a dog collar with some type of gemstone on it and imprint it that way. So yeah, people are saying put frequencies into the collar. Is coffee only coffee, or is it also caffeine, like green teas? So coffee would be coffee. Now, coffee has a lot of issues, right? Because coffee is a nightshade. Coffee has caffeine. Coffee has these things called xanthines that people are sensitive to. So there's a lot to coffee. And, but it could be, if you see caffeine, then caffeine is less clear. Caffeine could be in green tea, caffeine could be, so caffeine is more general, but coffee is very specific. I mean, I think that you're bringing in a good point. Lisa says there could be mycotoxins in the coffee. A good point that sometimes you see a resonance that is not exactly what it appears to be. So when you see anything on the Genius, you always want to go beyond what the exact thing is. Okay, the new mic has great sound. Thank you so much, Karen. I really, really appreciate that. Okay, thank you for letting me know, because you just never know when you have new equipment, right? All right, so now let's go down the list here of everything in canine, and we have a new dog healing condition. So let's just see what we've got here. We've got exposures. So my goodness, the dog has a lot of exposures. Propylene glycol, exogenous hormone effects, and the testes did come up. So dogs and human men can be exposed. Male dogs and human men can also get the negative effects of exogenous hormones. So that could be in the food, it could be in pesticides, heavy metal exposure, flea treatment toxicity, BHT, pesticides, BHA. These are preservatives that could be in the food. Now, Lauren sounds like she's very on it with the natural selection, the natural foods, but these could be things from the dog's past. I don't know if the dog was an adopted dog. We did talk about electrical sensitivity. That could definitely affect the heart. Arsenic exposure could be arsenic in the water. Ethotoxin, sorbitol, these are things, the way that we got these concepts were things that we just read off labels of different foods, and these were the types of additives that were in dog food, but they're more like standard dog food, more of your dog chow or Alpo or whatever, so not as much in the natural ones, but you can read the labels in your natural dog foods. The best thing is if you can prepare your own dog's food, but yes, I know that that takes a lot of time. Canine assessment food allergies, again, that wheat comes up, wheat and dairy. Dogs are known to be generally lactose intolerant, milk and eggs, okay. Then we've got digestion. So yeah, it says worms, and we saw that before, and we saw the fungal infection before, and we saw the issue with the pancreas before. So I always like when the Genius is going to echo from one screen to another different things. So that's really helpful. And then we have liver inflammation, dysbiosis, infections from raw meat, parasitic infection. You know, this is one thing that always kind of keeps me up at night. Currently I don't feed my dogs raw food actually, and that is because in a past a dog that I had, I was concerned that the raw food was bringing in too many infective agents. So this is something you'd have to really decide on for yourself, given the sourcing. Some people swear by giving animals raw food. I get concerned with mass production that there could be more infective agents in the raw food. It's a give and a take. A better solution might be freshly home-cooked food, home-cooked chicken and rice as an example, with some vegetables, and then putting enzymes into the food or probiotics. So the next one is conditions. So we've got a lot of conditions. Now, not all of them are going to match. The dog probably doesn't have Rocky Mountain spotted fever. We know the dog doesn't have mange, or she would have reported it right away. That's a very severe skin condition. And this is a type of parasite. But mitral valve disease, that matches, you know, that could be, because we know, and we got here congestive heart failure. So the thing, and with older dogs, very, very possible to have osteoarthritis. Now, parvo, it could be that the dog has a resonance or had it in the past, or maybe had a vaccination for it. So please remember that when you're interpreting the information. Let's go down here, and we've got more parasites. Addison's disease, that's kind of interesting because that could be tangentially related to it's more of an adrenal insufficiency, could be somehow related to the heart and lung issue, but I wouldn't make a direct connection there. Let's go to some of the canine. We have some dog healing libraries that are new, and it says, let's look at the cardiovascular. Yeah, it says congestive heart failure. Heart failure doesn't mean imminent, you know, that's necessarily like an emergency. This is a sign that the heart is not beating as well as it could be. So it doesn't have good its contractility, or the strength of the heartbeat is not as strong as it could be. It also does say mitral valve dysplasia. That's interesting because we're seeing all of the things that we saw in the other, sorry about this, but you can kind of see congestive heart failure, arrhythmic cardiomyopathy, which is the enlarged heart with an arrhythmia. That's really interesting because it kind of matches other things that we're seeing. The need for oxygenation, and then an alternation between hypertension and hypotension. Well, things I would look in that I would recommend for humans, I would see if it's possible that if dogs can consume hawthorn berries. So I would look that up and see if it's possible if dogs can consume hawthorn berries. That would be very good. And also magnesium, if you can work in a magnesium dog supplement. Magnesium is exceptionally good for healing the heart. Very, very good. And of course, coenzyme Q10 is another thing. So there are different natural pet websites now. I would look for supplements that have been made just for dogs. And Standard Process has a pretty good line. We actually have that in the animal healing, in the Standard Process right here. And you can see if there's anything interesting. Look at that. The cardiac support comes up, canine cardiac support from Standard Process. So that could be one that you could look into. Now you can also check the heart panels that are made for humans. So anything that is made for a human, you can use it, especially for a dog or a cat. So let's look at heart anatomy. And we do see a pattern that keeps coming up where there's not a lot of red at the top, and there's much more blue at the bottom. And so that's always going to be more of a depletion than an excess. So an older human, an older dog, and so there isn't as much resilience, there isn't as much ability to push through different things. So we might think about different things that could support or be nourishing, whether they be food or herbs. So this definitely tells us that the mitral valve, that this may have stemmed from a valve issue to begin with. So then we have a lot of different choices here. The heart health assessment. Nitric oxide would help to open up where we saw the claudication, open up the perfusion. Cardiomegaly, that's the enlarged heart. Some type of toxic exposure may have been the root cause of this. High homocysteine. So can you get some B vitamins for your dog? That would help to reduce the homocysteine. Inflammation, potassium deficiency, vitamin A deficiency. Heavy metal toxicity keeps coming up. It wouldn't be necessarily mercury, of course, that's like humans and dental fillings. I don't feed my dogs a lot of fish. I've heard some controversy about the fat from the fish and how it can affect the dogs. I don't know the whole download on that. A little bit is great because it has those essential fatty acids. But yeah, so heavy metals, I don't know if that came from fish. Also could be in the rice or chicken. Chicken can have high levels of arsenic, which we saw before. Then we have some affirmations. This is interesting, and I guess it's hard to have your dog say affirmations, but you can play the affirmations for your dog. So toxins affecting my heart are clearing from my body. Isn't that interesting? Because it hooks up and connects with the heavy metal toxicity and some of the signs of toxicity that we're seeing. My kidneys support the proper flow of blood and nutrition. So kidneys are always going to be affected when there's too much fluid. My vessels dilate for optimal flow and circulation. You can see how much that matches what we've been finding out that the dog needs. So I think this could be really, really powerful. I easily align my actions with my heart. I achieve balance between my head and my heart. I now fully align with my heart. Now, it sounds funny to think that a dog isn't aligned, but it could be something reflected in the owners or the family that's going on. Let's go to Progressive Insights now and see what comes up at the very, very top. So we have a lot of items in here. Let's see what comes up at the very, very top. That heavy metal toxicity. So you don't need to know all the details, but we want to run it. You want to run things that would help with heavy metal toxicity. Heartworm, fungal infection. Has the dog ever been just tested for heartworm? Fungal infection, we saw that come up a lot. Constipation, despair. balance, the cardiomegaly, the mitral valve. There's a lot of things that have come up today that are very consistent that we've seen echoed or shown in other places. Well, let's talk to Lauren and let's see how some of this information has landed with her, if it makes sense or what she's been thinking about as we've been doing this. So Lauren, what do you think about some of these things that have come up since we've been working together?
It's interesting. Oliver was about 5 or 6 feet away from me. And as you've been talking, working, he's now about 2 inches away from me.
Really drawn to the energy.
Yeah, so he's come in. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I don't think he's ever been tested for heartworm. He was a rescue dog that we got that was in an abusive, I mean, the owner was vegetarian and he lived on broccoli and lettuce. That was his entire diet when we got him.
Oh my goodness, you're kidding me. I don't know if the sound is coming through from the participant. You guys let me know because I don't want to switch it in the middle here. It could probably come in a little bit better. And I can't change the volume at the moment, but what she was saying that the dog lived with a vegetarian that just gave the dog, what did you say, broccoli and lettuce?
Yeah. And so
Broccoli and lettuce.
he's always had digestive issues. He's all his life.
Okay.
He's a tiny little soul. He's only about 6 pounds. So he's very small. And food has always been an issue. It's always been our challenge to get him to eat.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, maybe that would be fascinating. What kind of breed is the dog?
He's a Australian Silky Terrier, Shih Tzu, and Chihuahua.
Okay, okay, Chihuahua. I'll just say a Chihuahua mix. Okay, so Lauren, thank you. I'm going to make some final comments here as we finish up. And if you have any other questions for me, or if you'd like me to send these frequencies to your Quanta capsule, you can run them for your dog. So you're welcome to do that as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Ariel. I really appreciate this.
It's been a pleasure. Oh my gosh, it's so fun to hear that the dog had a positive reaction, even knew that we were running frequencies for your dog. That's really cool. And you see a beautiful green emerging here. That is absolutely the dog energetically trying to heal the heart. And so that looks absolutely wonderful. So let's take a picture of that. And very, very good. And let's see if you have any final questions here. Okay, the sound was okay. All right, so very, very good. All right, thank you for letting me know that. Okay, so today what we did is we looked at some of the issues around Entangled Insights. Now, we didn't get too far with assessment and solution, so I'm going to quickly make some comments. We have a new one, which is the neuropathy sort of assessment, or we're calling it root cause. So if you know somebody with neuropathy, this has been a big request. We use assessment to get hints about what might be the root cause of a particular issue. So now we're calling it root cause, but you know, in most of them, they're called thyroid assessment, liver assessment, things like that. And so the reds and the blues give you hints about what is the root cause. And you could clear these first, and then you would go to the solutions. So any of the solutions that came up, then you could run the solutions. You could run them together, you could run them separately, but you could also do it in a step-by-step process where first you're clearing out all sort of the problems. Anytime you run the frequency of the problem, you're not entraining the problem, you're harmonizing it, you're clearing it, you're helping to clear out the issue. Anytime you're running frequencies of the solutions, you want to enhance or make that better. So it's hard sort of for the cognitive mind to understand, but they're both beneficial. So that's sort of a quick explanation of the difference between assessment and solutions. So thanks to Lauren, and we're going to send lots of love and energy, good energy to your dog for continued healing. We will be back next week. And business members, we are meeting this week, so we'll see you then. For Library Discount Club members, we put the Radiant Skin Beauty lecture class into your learning portal. So we'll be back next week. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. Be well. Bye-bye for now.